In war, the best policy is to take a state intact. To ruin it is inferior. Victory without destruction is the highest form of success.
When Sun Tzu says the best policy is to take a state intact, to ruin it is inferior, he is teaching a principle that is at once strategic and humane. The highest form of victory is one that achieves your objectives while preserving the enemy's resources, institutions, and people. True mastery of conflict isn't measured by how much damage you cause, but by how efficiently and cleanly you neutralize opposition so that order, production, and life can continue afterward. Strategically, this is superior for 3 reasons. First, destruction is costly. It consumes time, manpower, treasure, and political capital. It exhausts the victor as well as the defeated. Second, a ruined state breeds long-term instability, insurgency, and resentment. The apparent win can become a protracted quagmire. Third, preserving structure makes post-conflict governance, reconciliation, and extraction of value, taxes, trade, cooperation, far easier, turning conquest into sustainable advantage. In modern terms, this principle applies beyond battlefields. In business, it is the difference between hostile takeovers that destroy value and strategic acquisitions or partnerships that integrate strengths and protect brand equity. In diplomacy, coercive ruin gives way to sanctions, negotiation, and institutions building that secure lasting influence. Even in personal or organizational conflict, the wise actor seeks solutions that solve the problem while preserving relationships and future capacity. That said, achieving victory without destruction demands superior intelligence, timing, and finesse. Knowing the opponent's weak points, fracturing alliances, using diplomacy or economic leverage, and shaping incentives so the adversary yields voluntarily. It is often harder than brute force because it requires patience, creativity, and moral restraint. The measure of a strategist is not how much they can destroy, but how effectively they can neutralize threats while leaving the world or the organization able to function. Winning well means securing objectives and preserving the possibility of a constructive future.
It is better to capture the enemy's army, city, or forces whole than to destroy them. And a wise general wins by preservation, not devastation.
Sun Tzu's advice that capturing an enemy whole is preferable to destroying them reframes victory as stewardship rather than annihilation. To take an army, city, or force intact preserves human capital, infrastructure, and the economic and social systems that make governance possible. It turns a one-time triumph into a lasting advantage. Practically, preservation reduces cost. Sieges, scorched earth tactics, and wholesale slaughter drain resources, erode morale, and create long-term liabilities, refugees, rebellions, and ruined economies. By contrast, captured troops can be integrated, ransomed, or repurposed. Captured cities provide taxes, labor, and logistical hubs. Winning through capture converts the enemy's assets into your own. Ethically and politically, preservation wins hearts as well as territories. A population left standing is more likely to cooperate under new rule. Devastation breeds hatred and insurgency. In modern terms, it's the difference between short-term coercion and long-term stability. Occupation that rebuilds will face less resistance than conquest that destroys. But capturing intact requires finesse, superior planning, deception, and timing. It often involves isolating the enemy, undermining morale, or offering terms that make surrender preferable to slaughter. The strategist must recognize opportunities to obtain compliance rather than force breaking. A masterful commander treats victory as conversion, not consumption. By preserving the defeated, you expand your strength and secure a more durable peace.
Therefore, the highest form of generalship is to defeat the enemy's strategy. Next best is to disrupt alliances. Next to attack the army. And the worst is to besiege cities.
Sun Tzu defines a hierarchy of warfare, a ladder of intelligence over violence. The supreme art of command is not to fight battles, but to prevent them. The general who defeats the enemy's strategy undermines their plans before they mature, rendering resistance impossible. This is victory in the mind, not the field. If that cannot be achieved, the next best move is to disrupt alliances, divide the enemy's support, isolate them politically, economically, or emotionally. A divided coalition collapses from within, saving blood and treasure. Failing this, one must attack the enemy's army, the direct contest of strength and skill. Yet even this is costly, uncertain, and destructive. And at the bottom of Sun Tzu's hierarchy lies the siege of cities, the most wasteful of all, consuming time, resources, and lives for minimal strategic gain. This principle reveals Sun Tzu's genius. War is not merely the art of fighting, but the science of avoiding unnecessary conflict. Every level down this ladder represents a loss of foresight. The less wisely a leader plans, the more blood must be shed to achieve the same end. The most powerful victories are invisible, won through foresight, diplomacy, and psychological mastery. The wise strategist wages war with the mind long before the sword is drawn.
Laying siege to a city should be a last resort. It wastes time, resources, and men. Avoid long, costly warfare that drains your strength.
Sun Tzu warns that besieging a city should be the very last option in war, not because it lacks courage, but because it lacks efficiency. A siege drains everything that gives an army its power: time, provisions, morale, and momentum. What looks like strength surrounding a fortress often hides exhaustion. A prolonged siege turns the attacker into the prisoner of his own campaign. While soldiers wait, discipline erodes, disease spreads, and supplies vanish. The defenders, meanwhile, grow desperate and more dangerous. Even if victory comes, it comes at a ruinous cost, a hollow triumph over rubble. Sun Tzu's wisdom is that time and energy are the real currencies of warfare. Every day spent battering walls is a day the enemy has to adapt, allies have to desert you, or the season to fight slips away. The wise general seeks faster, cleaner paths: deception, negotiation, cutting supply lines, or turning insiders. In modern terms, laying siege applies to any struggle where persistence replaces imagination, endless meetings, stubborn rivalries, or drawn-out competition that burns resources but wins little. The strategist looks for leverage, not attrition. The strongest leader knows when not to fight. Lasting victory comes from precision and timing, not from exhausting your forces against walls that could have been walked around.
The commander who excels wins by making no mistakes, avoiding what leads to defeat. Victory comes from flawless preparation, not chance.
Sun Tzu reminds us that true mastery and command is not about luck or brilliance in battle. It's about discipline in avoiding error. The greatest generals don't always perform miracles. They simply never make fatal mistakes. By eliminating the causes of defeat, they allow victory to emerge naturally. Mistakes in war, overconfidence, poor intelligence, haste, divided focus, are often more destructive than the enemy's strength. When a leader learns to see and remove these vulnerabilities, he shifts from reaction to control. Victory then becomes not a gamble, but the logical result of preparation and awareness. This philosophy turns strategy into science. Calculate, observe, and act only when conditions favor you. Don't rely on chance, emotion, or hope. Every precaution taken before battle, training, reconnaissance, supply, timing, multiplies your odds of success when the fighting begins. In life and leadership, the same rule applies. Success rarely comes from one brilliant move, but from consistently avoiding unforced errors. Progress belongs to those who plan, adapt, and stay calm when others rush. The art of victory is the art of prevention. Win first by removing every path to failure, and when the moment comes, success will simply confirm what your preparation has already ensured.
Knowing when to fight and when not to fight is the key to mastery in war. Wisdom is knowing the right moment to strike.
Sun Tzu teaches that the foundation of mastery lies not in strength, but in discernment, the ability to know when to fight and when to refrain. Many battles are lost before the first sword is drawn, simply because they were fought at the wrong time, for the wrong reason, or on the wrong ground. The wise commander studies timing as carefully as terrain. He understands that power is limited, but judgment multiplies it. To fight every battle is to exhaust oneself. To choose battles is to shape destiny. Victory, then, is not just about courage. It is about restraint, patience, and clarity. Knowing when not to fight requires humility and foresight. To withdraw when conditions are unfavorable. To delay when momentum is weak. To wait until confusion among the enemy creates your opening. This is strategy as rhythm, the art of acting in harmony with time, not against it. In life, as in war, wisdom often means stepping back instead of charging forward. The greatest strength is not in constant struggle, but in the calm that chooses its moment. True mastery is measured by timing, the courage to strike when victory is certain, and the wisdom to wait when it is not.
A wise general wins with superior strategy, not superior numbers. Puzzle piece intelligence, not size, decides victory.
Sun Tzu dismantles the illusion that numbers alone determine victory. Armies may be vast, but without clarity, unity, and insight, they are only crowds marching toward exhaustion. The wise general knows that strategy multiplies strength. Intelligence turns fewer soldiers into a force that moves with precision, speed, and purpose. Superior numbers can create a false sense of confidence. Superior strategy creates inevitability. The mind directs the muscle. One well-planned strike at the right time can achieve what thousands of warriors cannot through brute force. That is why Sun Tzu says, "He who knows the art of the direct and indirect approach will be victorious." This principle applies beyond the battlefield, in business, politics, and personal challenges. The clever thinker uses timing, terrain, and psychology to offset disadvantages. Small startups defeat giants through innovation. Underdogs outmaneuver empires by intelligence and adaptability. True strength is mental, the power to see the whole field, anticipate moves, and act with precision. Numbers only amplify what the mind has already mastered. Victory belongs not to the largest army, but to the sharpest mind. Strategy turns limits into leverage, and intelligence is the ultimate force multiplier.
If you know yourself and know your enemy, you need not fear 100 battles. True knowledge removes all uncertainty.
Sun Tzu reveals the timeless equation of victory. Self-knowledge plus knowledge of the enemy equals certainty in conflict. It is not strength, luck, or weapons that decide fate, but awareness. When you understand both your own limits and your opponent's nature, nothing can surprise you. Every outcome can be predicted, every move prepared. To know yourself is to recognize your strengths and weaknesses without illusion, to understand what motivates you, what hinders you, and where you stand. To know your enemy is to see through their intentions, strategies, and vulnerabilities. Combined, this insight allows perfect positioning. You fight only when the balance favors you, and you avoid battle when it does not. Ignorance, by contrast, leads to fear and rashness. Those who neither know themselves nor their enemies stumble blindly, hoping fortune will favor them, and in war, hope is a poor substitute for wisdom. In modern life, this principle extends to all forms of struggle: business, politics, relationships, and personal growth. Awareness replaces anxiety. Understanding dissolves uncertainty. The one who observes carefully, prepares thoughtfully, and acts deliberately is never caught off guard. When you master knowledge of both self and opponent, battle becomes calculation, not chaos. Confidence replaces fear, for true awareness is the foundation of unshakable victory.
If you know neither yourself nor your enemy, you will succumb in every battle. Ignorance guarantees defeat.
Sun Tzu ends his teaching on knowledge with a simple truth: ignorance is the surest path to defeat. The general who knows neither his own strengths nor the enemy's nature fights blindly, driven by pride, impulse, or illusion. Such a commander mistakes chaos for courage, and every battle becomes a gamble against fate. Not knowing yourself means misunderstanding your own limits, overestimating your power, misusing your resources, or losing direction when challenged. Not knowing your enemy means walking into traps, misreading intentions, and attacking shadows. Together, these two forms of blindness create inevitable ruin. Ignorance breeds arrogance, and arrogance blinds strategy. The unprepared commander blames luck. The wise one studies cause. Every loss begins first in the mind, in what we fail to see, ask, or understand. In modern terms, this principle applies to every realm. A leader who ignores feedback, an investor who neglects research, a person who acts without reflection, all fall the same way. Victory requires clarity, but clarity comes only through honest observation and disciplined thought. Defeat is not born on the battlefield. It begins in ignorance. To win in any struggle, first open your eyes, see yourself clearly, see your opponent truly, and no outcome will take you by surprise.
A ruler must not command his general in the field through fear or ignorance. Leadership must empower, not control.
Sun Tzu warns that a ruler who tries to command his general through fear or ignorance destroys his own army from within. Once a leader appoints a commander, that commander must be trusted to act with freedom and judgment in the field. The chaos of battle cannot be directed from a distant throne. A ruler motivated by fear demands obedience rather than wisdom. A ruler blinded by ignorance issues orders without understanding terrain, timing, or morale, turning strategy into confusion. When authority interferes with expertise, even the strongest army loses direction. True leadership empowers. The ruler's duty is to choose capable generals. The general's duty is to execute with clarity and autonomy. Mutual respect forms the bridge between vision and action. Micromanagement born of distrust weakens both. This principle applies far beyond warfare. In any organization, when those at the top suffocate initiative or override experience, the system decays. Great leaders set intent, define purpose, and then trust competence to carry it forward. Leadership is not control, it is confidence. A wise ruler governs through trust in skilled hands, knowing that empowerment, not interference, wins both wars and loyalty.
If a ruler interferes with military operations without understanding warfare, he endangers his army. Uninformed interference leads to disaster.
Sun Tzu cautions that when a ruler interferes in military operations without understanding the art of war, he endangers not only his general but the entire army. Command requires expertise, timing, and judgment, qualities that cannot be replaced by authority alone. To direct a campaign without knowledge is to steer a ship without knowing the sea. The battlefield obeys its own logic. Conditions shift by the hour, morale fluctuates, and opportunities vanish in moments. A distant ruler, unfamiliar with these realities, may issue rigid or impulsive orders that clash with on-ground strategy. The result is hesitation, confusion, and unnecessary loss. At its core, this is a warning against ego and ignorance in leadership. True power recognizes its limits. A wise ruler surrounds himself with experts and listens. A foolish one believes command grants competence. The greater the ignorance, the greater the risk. In modern terms, this applies to business, politics, and institutions. Executives who overrule specialists, policymakers who ignore data, or leaders who act from pride rather than understanding, all produce the same outcome: failure born of arrogance. Leadership is not about knowing everything. It's about knowing when to trust those who do. When authority replaces wisdom, even the strongest army or organization can be led to ruin.
A general who follows orders blindly without adapting to changing conditions courts defeat. Flexibility is the essence of command.
Sun Tzu teaches that blind obedience is not loyalty, it is weakness. A general who follows orders without regard for the shifting realities of the battlefield courts disaster. The nature of war is change. Terrain, weather, morale, and opportunity evolve faster than distant commands can reach the front. A true commander must possess flexibility, the courage to adjust, the wisdom to improvise, and the clarity to act in harmony with circumstance. Orders provide direction, not chains. The greatest victories often come from adapting principles to the moment, not applying them rigidly. Blind adherence to instruction shows discipline but not intelligence. Strategy demands responsiveness. the ability to interpret intent, not just execute command. Sun Tzu's genius lies in treating war as a living art, not a mechanical science. In modern life, this applies to leadership, management, and even personal growth. Those who cling to fixed plans in a changing world are outmaneuvered by those who can think, sense, and pivot. Flexibility transforms obedience into mastery. Command requires more than following rules. It requires reading reality. The wise leader obeys the spirit of strategy, not just the letter of orders. For flexibility is the soul of victory.
When the troops are united in purpose, even the weak become strong. Unity amplifies strength.
Sun Tzu reveals that strength does not come from numbers or weapons, but from unity of purpose. When an army moves as one, sharing vision, trust, and will, it becomes a single, unstoppable force. Unity transforms weakness into power because it aligns every individual effort toward a common goal. Disunity, by contrast, dissolves even the mightiest army. When soldiers doubt their leader, mistrust one another, or fight for different aims, their strength fragments. Energy turns inward, into fear, hesitation, and blame. The enemy need not destroy them. They destroy themselves. A wise commander, therefore, cultivates harmony. He inspires rather than coerces, unites hearts through shared purpose, and makes every soldier feel that victory belongs to all. In such an army, courage flows naturally, discipline strengthens itself, and loyalty becomes unbreakable. In modern life, this principle applies to any team, organization, or movement. When people work in isolation, their impact is limited. When they work with one mind, they become far greater than the sum of their parts. Unity is the hidden multiplier of power. When purpose is shared and trust is strong, even the weak stand tall, for together they are invincible.
When divided, even a strong army becomes fragile. Disunity destroys power.
Disunity is the silent destroyer of strength. Sun Tzu reminds us that no matter how powerful an army or an organization may appear, division from within weakens it faster than any enemy could. When minds are not aligned and loyalties are fractured, confusion replaces clarity, suspicion replaces trust, and chaos replaces order. A divided army cannot move as one. Orders are questioned, morale crumbles, and discipline fades. Soldiers fight for themselves instead of the cause, and the result is inevitable collapse. Even the strongest fortress falls when its defenders turn against each other. Hanjin. A wise leader understands that unity is not enforced by fear, but built through trust, fairness, and shared purpose. True leadership binds people together with vision and respect, creating harmony out of difference. In every sphere, whether war, work, or community, division breeds downfall. Power without unity is hollow, but unity, even without power, can endure. Strength without harmony is illusion. Only unity gives power its true foundation.
Therefore, a wise commander aligns the army's will with the ruler's vision. Harmony between leaders and soldiers ensures success.
A truly wise commander acts as the bridge between vision and action. Sun Tzu teaches that victory is not born from orders alone, but from alignment, the shared understanding between the ruler's purpose and the army's spirit. When the leader's vision flows naturally into the hearts of the soldiers, discipline becomes devotion, and commands transform into collective will. If the ruler desires peace, but the army thirsts for conquest, or if the commander pursues glory while the nation seeks stability, confusion takes root. Such discord breeds hesitation in battle and doubt in loyalty. The army must not only obey, it must believe in the cause it serves. Harmony between leaders and soldiers transforms strategy into momentum. It turns duty into unity, and unity into unstoppable strength. A commander who cultivates this harmony leads not through authority, but through shared purpose. When hearts and minds move as one, even the impossible becomes achievable.
If the ruler and general are at odds, the army is confused and vulnerable. Internal conflict breeds external defeat.
When the ruler and the general fall out of harmony, the army loses its anchor. Sun Tzu warns that discord at the top ripples downward, confusion spreads, morale weakens, and discipline collapses. Soldiers look to leadership for unity of purpose. When commands conflict or motivations clash, their confidence fades. An army cannot serve two minds. If the ruler doubts the general, decisions become hesitant and contradictory. If the general resents the ruler, loyalty turns to pride and obedience to rebellion. In such conditions, even a strong army becomes brittle. The battlefield punishes confusion. Enemies sense hesitation like the scent of blood and strike where uncertainty reigns. Victory demands unity at the top. Divided command is the seed of defeat.
If a general is wise, courageous, and disciplined, the nation prospers. Good leadership strengthens the state.
A general embodies the nation's strength in motion. When he is guided by wisdom, he plans with foresight and balance. When he acts with courage, he inspires confidence and moves decisively. When he maintains discipline, he ensures order and efficiency among the ranks. Such leadership becomes the heart of national stability. The general's success in the field safeguards the people, upholds the ruler's authority, and strengthens the state's reputation. His virtue radiates beyond the battlefield, fostering unity, morale, and peace. When wise leadership prevails, war becomes not an act of chaos, but a tool of harmony. The character of one leader can determine the destiny of a nation.
But if he is foolish, arrogant, or reckless, the nation suffers. Bad leadership destroys everything without the enemy's help.
A foolish general is more dangerous than the enemy itself. Ignorance blinds, arrogance deafens, and recklessness destroys. Together, they lead armies into ruin without a single enemy strike. When a leader acts from ego rather than wisdom, he wastes lives, resources, and morale. War demands clarity, patience, and humility. A leader who lacks these virtues becomes the source of chaos within his own ranks. His pride turns victory into defeat, and his misjudgment endangers the very nation he was sworn to protect. The downfall of nations often begins with the arrogance of their leaders.